State's got a new offensive coordinator. I'm wondering, when you try to game plan for this, what do you expect from Penn State, and what challenges offensively do you think they can present?
Yeah, always a challenge. When you go into a new season, you know things are going to change. Obviously, you add the new coordinator on top of that. You got to look a lot of different places and really overexpose your players to what could happen. You're playing the guessing game a little bit. Feel confident in the plan we have going into the week and put it in the players' hands. We have a talented group, an experienced group, and week one is all about letting them play fast and play physical, be aggressive, and try to give them a plan that can handle the issues that you think might come about, but really allow them to play fast.
Jim, you mentioned the experienced group, and especially in the secondary. Is it fun to start a season with a challenge like Jahan Dotson and Parker Washington, knowing that the guys you have in that secondary?
Yeah, it gets really easy to motivate your guys. They've been through it before. They understand what talented football players, the issues they can cause, and what it's all about. So I think our guys have been really focused, throughout the offseason and going into camp, knowing that week one was going to be a huge test. And you look, whether it's Penn State, Texas, wherever this coaching tree's been, they challenge secondaries in a big way. So our guys are excited for that opportunity, and I'm looking forward to watching play on Saturday.
Jim, when you have two guys in the middle of your defense, and Sam Golan and Chanel, that are that experienced and that good, I imagine that's a pretty good luxury. What does that mean for your defense?
When you have two guys that are kind of running the show of your defense and have the experience they have, very little that they haven't seen, so it provides a lot of comfort for the people around them. Usually very clean communication, and we're able to get you some adjustments, whether it's in a game plan or within a game even, that an inexperienced or younger group probably couldn't handle, which makes it fun as a coordinator. And just to me, the biggest thing is they can see it on game day and they can communicate it back to you. That's rare, and it's a lot of fun for us to coach, and we put a lot on that group to make plays on top of make adjustments and communicate, and we feel like we've got the right two in there to get it done.
Jim, as far as pressure on the quarterback, in this defense, everybody always asks you about the guys coming off the edges, but getting back to Chanel and Sanborn, how good are they at whatever you call on that particular play, getting into the back and getting the quarterback straight? Yeah,
they've done a great job of creating pressure from the second level of our defense. It's a big part of what we do. We've always been able to get pressure on the quarterback. Last year we didn't have the sack numbers. We felt like we still had good pressure. We weren't getting some of the production. This year that's a huge emphasis of ours, is getting back to being disruptive. And you looked over the years of this defense, it's always looked a little different. Sometimes it's our two-edge defenders, sometimes it is an inside backer or a safety creating a lot of pressure for us. We're trying to find a skill set, what guys do best, and try to put them in those positions as much as possible. And feel like we've done a good job throughout camp of kind of identifying who those playmakers are going to be, and what gets them playing most aggressive, fastest, most physical. And now you're getting into game weeks and you're trying to put it all together on just how many different ways you can get them in those positions.
Jim, what would you say Colin and Scott do well from an on-field perspective that has allowed you to have so much trust in them at the safety spots?
Safeties, to me, so much comes to eyes. Pre-snap, can you identify issues? Can you kind of pre-think communication and adjustments? I felt like they've always done a good job together when they're paired together in that combination of getting us into right calls, right checks, right adjustments within our defense. And then I think they still have the ability to play fast and create plays, play physical. Looking for production, in the pass game. I think sometimes it's been there from our safeties and sometimes it's disappeared, and that's been a big focus of ours this offseason as an entire group, and hopefully that pays off here this season.
Jim, what are some of aspects of Sean Clifford's game that you guys are really just focusing in on as you guys get closer to Saturday?
Obviously he has a ton of experience, started a lot of games for them, has been very productive in the pass game and the run game. He is a guy that I think enjoys getting hit a little bit. I think he likes having the ball in his hands and kind of gets him into the flow of his game a little bit more. So obviously preparing for him to handle the ball in the run game, you know, and they're not afraid to put the ball in his hands. And then in the pass game, he's made good decisions. You know, saw a lot of growth from 2019 to 2020, especially once that second half of the season came and you saw just a little bit more consistency with some of the decisions he was making. I think he took big strides a year ago. So big test from a quarterback standpoint, because you're not going to fool him very often. I think he has a good grasp of what they've tried to do in the pass game and how they use him in the run game to create extra numbers.
Steve?
Just with Clifford again, you said there's a difference between 19 and 20 when you look at the game tape. Aside from the consistency, how has this kind of game progressed over the years from what you can see?
I think just you know, some of the decisiveness, right? That's one thing I always just try to see, and it's more of a feeling as you're watching a guy, you know, going from game to game. I thought, you know, when it was clean and when he knew where to go with the football, he was being very decisive and accurate with the ball. I think his eyes, right, I was seeing kind of how he used his eyes to work through progressions and different things, or hold safeties and stuff like that. You could just tell he grew a lot from one year to the next, and you know, hopefully he regressed. I doubt that usually doesn't happen for quarterbacks, but he can have a great year after week 1.
Yeah. Jim, one of the guys you talked about last spring, talking about getting pressure, was Aaron Witt, and then he got hurt. And in the practices that were open to us, he wasn't able to do anything. What kind of road does he face to get back, to maybe get in the mix, even if it's just situational stuff where he can help you?
Yeah, obviously we're high on his ability and what he can do in this defense. Yeah, has had limited kind of practice here in fall camp and going back into the spring some. So we like what he's doing. We like where he was trending second half of last season going into this year, and it's just going to be what can he get comfortable with, and more so from a game shape standpoint at this point, just missing a lot of time. But definitely like what he's going to bring to the table for us when we can get him on the field.
Jim, we've seen Fan Hicks add that slot duty to his game. Where have you seen him take the most step between where he ended last season to where he starts this year?
The big focus for him this offseason was really the understanding of playing that position. He was able to go in there, make all the adjustments, and is a difference maker, covering people in the slot for us because of his ability. His whole focus this offseason was really to detail it up and to be able to play faster, you know, communicate a little bit cleaner and more efficiently, because you're talking to corners, safeties, backers, right? Just the space of the field changes for you, and the amount of communication that you have to lead is different. So he went in there last season and did extremely well for us, and then this offseason it was all just football IQ and how many different ways we can use him when he's in that position. And I think he's really owned that, and excited for him to be able to create some matchup issues for us, you know, playing outside and in the slot.
Coach, obviously it's the first game back this week, playing against Penn State, Big Ten rivals. First game back with fans. How have you and the other coaches been kind of telling the guys not to, you know, get too caught up in the energy and to use it as momentum?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting week, because last year was so different. And you think of the amount of guys that have never played in front of, you know, full Camp Randall, right? It's probably half, if not more than half of your team. If you look at some of those younger guys who've been here a couple years and really had small roles or didn't play much, that are now juniors even, or redshirt sophomores. Obviously the whole freshman class and the incoming class never done it. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for all teams in the country to, you know, how do you balance the emotion, the communication, right? It was easy. We could communicate on defense at home. It's never happened before, right? So, you know, guys like Nick Herbig, you started an entire year of football, but you never played in front of a full Camp Randall. You start joking with him a little bit. Can you handle that? Like, are you going to be okay, or are you going to go take a step back? I think it's a challenge we're all excited for, right? Hopefully more normalcy this year as far as having fans in the stands and really creating the home field advantage that Camp Randall is. I'm excited to start this year off at home and let these guys feel what that's all about.
Jim, obviously on the other side of the ball than you, but Joe Tippmann, what stood out about him? And heard some guys, he's pretty fast off the ball, pretty quick off the ball, and it's a tough guy to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big, strong, physical kid. So he's been a little bit different than what we've had. Some of the O-line positions, especially at center, you think more of Biotic, like it's kind of back in that mold of like you better have your hands ready. You better be off the ball quick, and he can present some problems with one size and that strength and kind of explosion off the ball. So excited to see what he can do. Obviously, he was more frustrated than anybody when you get hurt like that and you just kind of feel like you're spinning your wheels. So I know he's excited to really help this team in any way asked. And it was fun to see him back on the field, and he can definitely cause some problems.
Time for one more for the coach, Jake.
So Jim, when looking at the cornerback on the depth chart, you have two listed as the second team with Dante and Dean behind Fayon, and then Samar and Alexander behind Caesar. Just how did those four compete during fall camp, and what do you like out of that quartet of cornerbacks that, in terms of matchups, that could help your defense?
Yeah, I think, from a competition standpoint, one, they've all played. They've all played in big moments for us. They've all were productive in the past in continuing to grow their games. They competed really well. I think they all had big moments in fall camp where you're kind of like, man, he's taking the lead, he's jumping ahead, and then somebody else would battle back and make a few plays the next day. Loved everything they're doing. You look at just what we've done. We've been in nickel significantly over half of our snaps the last 2 years. We've got 3 DBs on the field. So you look at really the depth of 6 guys. That's what is real in college football and in our scheme. So I think they all deserve to be noticed in that way. But excited for the versatility that we have. We have a number of guys that can play in the slot. I think we can play to their skill sets week in and week out and put them in positions to have the best matchups. So I'm excited for that corner group because from a depth standpoint and experience and versatility, I think it's probably as good a group as we've had in a while.